certain states.
Yeah.
I didn't get them all.
Right.
So I'll create a Family Forward Project Missouri. Now,
Yes.
so the Family Forward Project is the general group, and it's important that you stay in that and watch that. We try to keep general news in there, reports, but your state groups should just be able to share specifically state information. So, and to be able to know start developing research or research information, contacts, etc. So that is, research, organization, and promotion are the three key things that you need in developing a family forward for a state. So keep that in mind, and if y'all can help out these two ladies,
yes,
I'm assuming you're going to help with this.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, they are both grandmothers, and they have had their grandchildren stolen. And it is federal and state law to provide relative placement. So every day that children are away from a relative placement is federal fraud. It is a fraud of taxpayer dollars. So
yes,
y'all need to know that. It's not just, isn't foster care great? Because we know it's much deeper than that.
Yes.
So before, I want to talk to you about some of the things that have happened here at the conference, but I do want, and a lot of you watch Laura's lives. She talks a lot about what's going on, and
yes,
I want you just to tell a little bit about, because I want people to understand, and the people who follow like my Facebook lives and stuff that don't know Laura, to understand the problems and the issues with removing children from their biological parents. And even if their biological parents are not able to take care of them for reasons of substance abuse or just their lives or whatever, it is not unusual for the children to recognize that that it is not unusual for them to. I got somebody else here trying to get a live going. I'm so sorry. Kimberly's trying to jerry rig something. No, sit on top of it. On top of it, and turn it a little bit and scoot it back a little bit more towards her purse.
There we go.
Sorta, kinda.
There we go.
Okay, so I have to go like this. I can be in Kimberly's video. Yeah. All right. So,
sorry.
So I want you, Laura, to tell. First of all, please share with me what you have. 2 grandchildren there in the system. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how old are those grandchildren now?
They are 4 and 5, almost 6. Going to be. They were with me first time at 3 weeks old, and the baby was 3 weeks old when I got them the first time on 3. I've had them on 3 safety plans, and then they did a removal and had me get licensed as a foster parent. Then about 6 months or 7 months into having them, while I was licensed, they fabricated some stuff, said that I hindered reunification. They threatened to take my grandkids. I told them they wasn't, and they needed to leave my house. The next day, they took my grandkids from daycare, and I've been
with
fighting
an ex
ever
parte
since.
order. Again, going behind your back and getting an order. This is so huge. This is what, and for those of you who followed kind of what was going on with me and Wendy over the past week, it's these horrible, constitutional, invalid, improper ex parte orders. So in Laura's case, it was with ex parte order because she pissed somebody off. And basically in Wendy's case, it was because somebody got pissed off too, because I made calls to everybody prior to them getting an ex parte order. I made calls to the social workers, the supervisors, the regional, the local office, the judge's office, the detective. I mean, to try to do what their policy says, which is to try to meet and resolve problems. And the children's stability and continuity is part of the policy, and it's part of federal and state law. So in Laura's case, she had grandchildren, and in your case, it's your son's children, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's my son's kids.
And in her case, her son and the children's mother both acknowledged and accepted that this was not the right time for them to have children, and they both wanted and wrote down on a piece of paper and agreed for Laura to have the children as the best caretaker for the children. Now remember, the other thing that comes into play when you have a grandparent is that continuity for the children for their heritage.
Absolutely.
Because you are, I call it generational genocide, when you take a child and you just erase everything that is their genealogy.
Yeah.
And, I often go back to think about, biblically they say, the sins are 9 generations deep, right? The sins of the father go 9 generations deep. And when we don't have the right, we have to be very careful. And, some of you are just going to poo-poo me and saying, this doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. But,
Right.
God doesn't make mistakes. And,
Yeah,
and
does
if
not.
people make mistakes, there's usually a way within God's plan for that to be resolved. I have a really strong feeling about that. And so when you have a grandparent who's willing to care for those children and still allow those children to know who their parents are.
Yes.
I have a grandchild that lives with me. But nobody's been, terminated, and she goes to see her mom, whatever, and if she wants to go back and live with her mom, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a grandma and I'm going to do that. But she'll always know. Kids always need to know what their genealogy is.
Yes.
So,
I agree.
and so after did you actually have custody of the children when they removed them,
No.
or was it just by agreement of the parents?
They had them on safety plans. Like I said, I had
With
them
the
placed-
agency, though?
Yeah, through the
Okay.
agency, I had them through safety plan. Then they gave them back to the parents when I became complicated. As they said, I was complicated to work with. They gave them back to the parents. The parents ended up getting pulled over and had drugs on them. They removed the kids. That's when they placed them in the care of the state. That they gave them to me at that time. Made me and my husband get licensed as foster parents, and then it was about halfway through, about 6 months into it, my grandkid was questioned about sexual misconduct from the counselor that they were that the agency had them see, and I threw a big fit about it, and when I did, I became complicated. So they said they didn't. They felt like I was hindering reunification.
And yet, if you hadn't done, because you are a counselor,
I am.
right?
Mhm.
So had
I'm a
you not
counselor.
said something about that, I know at least in Tennessee, you're mandated reporters.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
had this happen and you
Well,
not...
actually, the reason that I found out that he was being investigated was because he was being my grandchild was questioned at daycare and was asked some about sexual misconduct, and then they also put him on a temporary suspension.
Put the counselor on a
Yes.
suspension.
To seeing foster children, but then they cleared him, and when they cleared him, they demanded I take my grandchild back. I said no, and from that point on, it became a power struggle with
Wow.
them.
Wow, yeah. So, and they will retaliate. That's what they do. DCS attorney said in break, she'll be disbarred in about 2 minutes, right? That's their whole goal, right? So they got a ways to go on that, but
Yeah.
I'm sure eventually they'll try to figure that out, which is okay, because I'm going to move into policy making anyway, policy and lawmaking and
Yes.
lobbying. So, all right. And so as far as now, so they took them away from you,
Mhm.
accused you.
Of hindering reunification, and they brought up I passed, even though I was licensed and everything was cleared.
Right.
24 years ago, I had committed a felony. Well, it was 26 years ago. I forget I'm this old. I do. I forget.
It happens.
So, and it was ridiculous. And since then, I am a counselor. I've worked with adolescents. One of the reasons that they didn't like me was because I advocated for kids, and a lot of times had to stand up against children's division. So this was a
Right.
perfect opportunity for them to show me who was in charge.
Absolutely.
And I was
know.
actually
I
told,
know.
literally told by the juvenile officer that I needed to learn who was in charge here, that these kids are not in my care, they are in the state of Missouri's care, and I needed to learn who was in control.
Right.
And when they took, I cried and said, you're in control. You're in control. I know who's in control. Please give my grandkids back, please. It doesn't matter.
I know, it's
Just didn't
horrible. It's horrible that they become treated like files.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I'll tell you, I've only worked for the government once. For a short time in my life, I was a prosecutor. And, I saw, the government workers treat cases like files, right? They're
Yes.
not people. So,
Yeah.
all right. And so now tell me where you are right. Well, when was the date that they removed them about?
They removed them. It was in March or April. It was March because it was at the beginning of COVID. So they removed him in March 19th, I believe.
2020.
Of 2020.
And then as you sit here today, July the 20th, 2021, what's the status right now? Are you seeing them?
Nope. They
When did they cut you off?
Because I went to a visit.
When did they cut you off?
They cut me off in, let's see, was it after I got, it was in October.
Of 2020.
Of 2020.
Wow.
And I only seen him 2 times because of COVID prior to that. And when they cut off, and the reason they cut me off is because my grandchild told me at a visit, he said, Grandma, ever since they have, you left me at daycare, then I have been bad. And I said, honey, Grandma would not leave you at daycare. They took you from me. And they said that it was non-productive, and so so they pretty much stopped me from seeing my grandchildren. No visits, absolutely no visits at all. And I was their security, I was their everything. I mean, me and my husband was all they knew. So, and they've been in 4 foster homes, abused in 1, and definitely was proven abuse because they removed the kids from it. I have the FSD recorded. And
and she has some photos too. They took those photos of the children being bruised.
Slapped.
I mean, it's just crazy. Now, since you've been involved in since you've been involved, we got some people sticking their head in here in the background.
Hey, everybody.
So since you've been involved, I know you have taken some extra time just to kind of dig into just kind of the workings of the agency. And I think you told me they had how many commissioners?
Oh, they've had 6 and 7 years.
They've had 6 commissioners in 7 years.
Directors.
Okay.
Directors, yeah.
Directors of Children's Division.
Yeah. So is your governor Republican or Democrat?
A Republican.
Who is it?
Parson.
What's his first name?
Oh, I'm having a brain. Mike Parsons, yeah.
Governor Mike Parsons, you are a Republican, okay? So you know what? I say that in child welfare, political party does not matter because any real laws that we pass bipartisan. But Governor Parsons, you need to get control of your agency, okay?
Can I elaborate on that just a second?
Just a second, yeah. So this is your agency. It is an executive agency. You need somebody in place who's going to get this bureaucratic machine who's treating people like a piece of paper. You need to get your machine in place. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to call you out, that Governor Parsons of Missouri, I want you to know that for every day that a child is in foster care that they should not be in foster care, it is a fraud, it is a tax fraud issue because your agency is claiming federal money. They're claiming federal money, which they should not be doing. And you have these contractors sucking in that federal money that they should not be doing. So Governor Mike Parsons of Missouri, I'm calling you out. You need to get this agency under control. It is your agency. It is your executive branch agency. It doesn't matter how many laws we get written. It doesn't matter how many policies or federal directives that we get from Washington, D.C. If you don't control your agency, nothing will change. All right, and Emilee, you add to that.
I'm going to add to the Governor Parsons. They asked us here in Missouri, turn the purple lights on for the foster children. Every child in foster care needs a home. Well, I tell you, there are children in foster care
that have a home,
that don't need to be in foster care, that have a home. Every day my grandchildren are in foster care is wasting tax dollars.
Absolutely.
And you need
mine as well.
A judge said
Absolutely.
the grandparents are acceptable. He said, I am acceptable. However, they have bonded with a non-relative foster placement. He did not take in consideration that he is making a lifetime decision about my family.
And this is not considering the rights of the children. Okay, so bonding, yeah, I agree. Emotional support and bonding is an important part of a child's life. But you know what? My children have emotional bonds with people that are not related to them.
Exactly.
But if you destroy and you take away their genealogy, you are affecting their rights. Under the United States Constitution, it's absolutely been determined that they have familial rights. The child and the parent have familial rights. and you are taking away and you're interfering with those constitutional rights. I think you said something to me also about turnover that you found out about.
Yes, there's 80% turnover rate in caseworkers here. A lot of that I think has to do with the fact that they can't, if you don't, because also me losing my position as an integrated health specialist, if you don't fall beneath their robotic, arbitrary justice, if you don't fall within that, then you either get fired and they get rid of you, or they you quit. People quit because they can't do it.
And I'm telling you, and I worked on, and a lot of you had followed the Baby Lucy case. We had like 4 social workers, and 2 of them left. One of them, I think, got fired because we photographed the inside of her car while she was calling on a home, and she had alcohol in there, and open alcohol in her little console. And the other one quit, and she just told Lucy's mom, just like, I'm out of here. I'm not, like, I got an accounting degree. I don't need to be messing with these people. So, but Governor Parsons, I'm also going to say, if you are out there promoting foster care and yet you are not listening to families and you are not listening to what they have to say, when these legislators and governors talk about stakeholders, do you know who the stakeholders are? They're these people right here. These families and these grandmothers, these are stakeholders.
Yes.
Because you know what's at stake? Their grandchildren.
Yes, and also as a professional, working with children, I know that children being moved as often as they're moving. Like my grandchildren have been in 4 foster homes in 1 year, and that causes trauma, PTSD. Their fight or flight freeze, mechanism kicks in, and then they have these unwanted behaviors. Then they label them. And then they get more money.
Well, and the truth is,
secondary
we're not
trauma,
even saying that there's a tertiary trauma, because we're saying the trauma is what they created altogether. It's kind of collective. So, but so we are here, Kimberly and I. So anyway, Governor Parsons. Yes. So I know somebody's going to send this to you because people stalk me all the time. So, matter of fact, we may be calling your office, and nationally we're going to be joining up with Missouri, and we'll be, we need to be calling that out. Do you have an election next year for governor?
I believe so. I'm not
okay,
sure.
Well, you need to be checking that out.
I'm going to get all into that. Yes, I'm right now in graduate school. My study is human services with focus on social justice and leadership. So I am actually in a class right now to teach me how to do the political side of it.
Okay, well, the most important thing is you find out who all the players are.
Absolutely.
So you're going to go to
all the actors,
your state, but your state legislative, General Assembly, whatever you call it, legislature. You need to find out what committees are the ones who are in charge of these laws, so we know who those players are.
Right on.
And we know who the governor is and the commissioners and all of that.
Okay.
Okay, so Missouri, anybody out there else in Missouri is so important. And if you're in another state, and I got a couple people message me today, somebody I think in Wisconsin and Oklahoma.
We got a Wisconsin earlier.
Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Minnesota, Amy.
Right on the border.
Amy here is in Minnesota, Wisconsin. She's a powerhouse, and she will talk to you wherever you are. So, but you got to listen. You got to listen to people who talk to you. Okay, so let's talk about this conference. So it started on Sunday, and it is all day yesterday, all day today, and it ends tomorrow. And it is the National Council of Family and Juvenile Court Judges. Okay, it's a really long acronym. But I met the girl who is not. She doesn't really run it, but she is their kind of their promo person, I guess, but I got her name. She was really nice. And Kimberly and I were able to sign up for one day because we drove yesterday. We drove in from Tennessee, so it was kind of a long drive with a bunch of kids in the car. And we did it though. We made it. And so we went down there this morning, and we were not there as early as we wanted to be because we had kids we had to get up and feed breakfast to, and that's just part of the program here when you are family people working on family issues. You have family to deal with.
Family.
You have family. So they did let us pay for the one day, and we got into the last part of the first session, which was about early representation and family representation. And I've got all the names in the handouts. But one of the people that spoke was Vivek Sankar, and he is a professor at the University of Michigan in Detroit or Lansing, maybe Lansing. And he has written quite a bit, and I know anybody who's posted and pulled up stories like from Imprint, I know you can find some stories. He is very much into parent representation. So they talked about early representation and early advocacy for families, which is what I tried to get before the Tennessee legislature this year, and DCS came in and lobbied against it. So we are going to move forward with that again. I have 2 other things that I'm going to be asking them to do, and one is talking about these ex parte orders and parents being able to be prosecuted after their constitutional rights have been violated. It's just absurd, and that's what happened to Wendy. And not only that, the judge had to change the law. Judge Woodruff had to change the law to fit the facts of the case. So that'll be going up on appeal, and I'll do a live on that at some point just to go through that step by step so you understand what happened. I thought it was a joke, honestly, because when I read the indictment, I'm like, oh, they'll have to dismiss this. They didn't even follow the statute, and he changed the statute to fit hang on, how real they like to
that does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, it did shock me because I thought at least maybe he'll follow the law. You know, I mean, the case law is pretty clear that jury instructions are constitutional issues. So we're going to be working hard on that. It's going to, you know, I told poor Wendy, I know she didn't want to be, you know, a historic figure in the child welfare movement, but she's going to be. Right. So we just got to keep her strong. The people who are deep into it and they're standing up and fighting and getting retaliation, we need to really support them.
Yes.
So I went up and I talked
retaliation's real.
I went up and talked to Vivek after it. He had met me at the ABA Parent Representation Conference in 2019, and he remembered me. And I'm dressed in really bright colors because I always dress in bright colors. And then we went to 2 other sessions and got to talk to some great people. So I got a judge out of Augusta, Georgia. We have a judge out of Indiana. And you have a couple judges.
A judge out of Wisconsin.
A judge out of Wisconsin.
Sally Turnowski up in Duluth, the ICWA judge. Yes. I was in on her module.
Tribal court judge out of Denver, Colorado. That was really interesting. Yeah. I spoke in depth last night about tribal courts getting jurisdiction, but the issue is that they don't really have the funding in order to take the cases out of state courts. So,
exactly.
I know a lot of times families, if they do have Native American heritage, they try to get it into a tribal court, but that's why it's just not happening. They just don't have the funding.
Yeah, and they won't. And I've seen it more than once where they like deny taking the case. So. Which shouldn't matter because they should have ICWA protection anyway. And actually, I think ICWA is an equal protection violation for all the other families because the standard in an ICWA is beyond a reasonable doubt. And for other families, it's clear and convincing evidence.
Yes,
so.
and a lot of people that are standing up against them are ended up in jail. They're ending up in jail. I have a friend out of Iowa who's been standing up against them. They've arrested her. I have a friend in Virginia that has been beaten down by the police and arrested. I mean, the retaliation is real.
I've been chained to a wall.
You've been chained to a wall? Oh my gosh, yeah. So far I haven't been arrested, but the judge told me if I said his name that he would have me arrested. So what's his name? I think it's Judge Beadham.
You've been, like the judge told her that if she said his name on social media, she'd be arrested. Okay, what's it, Beadham? Judge
Beadham out of Jeff City.
It's called prior restraint, okay? That would be a constitutional violation, okay? You are a public official. That would be, it's called prior restraint. You can Google that, you can look it up, and that is unconstitutional for you to do that.
Yes.
So we are rocking and rolling. I need you all to get state organized because as I said earlier, I need a researcher and an organizer in every state because I know Tennessee inside out. I know most of the federal laws inside out.
Organization?
But I don't have the time to dig into every single state. I do have some policy positions. We have a great, I'm not going to say right now because I don't want to jinx it, but we have a great advocate who's getting a policy position with a national organization, and she's all about family policy, and I'm going to help her kind of get that position. looking to get a policy position in the organization. Again, I'm not going to jinx it, so I'm not going to give the details on it until that comes down, and that'll be October. So we want you to know that we are working.
Yes.
I need your help. I need you to be active citizens. We're going to
active,
start a
yes.
call campaign. I've talked to you all about this before. You need to get your phones out. You need to go to open states and find out who your state legislators are.
Absolutely.
I mean, if I talk to you, I ask you.
It'll connect again.
Yeah. I ask you who's your state legislator all the time, so you better know, okay? All right, well, we're gonna buzz out here. I'm gonna see if I can find the father's rights groups. I'd like to talk to them because they're here somewhere. So
They
we're
are
gonna
somewhere.
log off. Y'all share it, pass it around, please, and get motivated. Okay, we love y'all.
We need to alert the people who are not personally affected by this.
Yeah. they
Keep
need
your
to
focus on the family and children.
Yeah.
Keep your
Yes.
focus on the family and the children.
All right, very good. Okay, we'll see y'all.
Bye, guys.